Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to working with all of you over the next year. So I believe we were about to move on to establishing the 2023 meeting schedule for the Board of Directors. Mr. McGlass.
Yeah, it really just affirming, this board has met on the second Thursday of every month at 4 o'clock for a number of years. Just affirming that the board wishes to continue with that schedule, or if anybody had any objections and wanted to offer an alternative, this is the time.
Okay. Any concerns from the right?
I would just ask, Mr. McGlasson, if you checked whether that overlaps with any holidays. Or we could address that later, I suppose.
Yeah, we may have to address that later. I apologize. No, off the top of my head, I don't have that information.
Okay.
All right. Any concerns, Commissioner Gibbons? No? Oh. Hi. And let the record note that Commissioner Lee Jones is present. All right, so is this an item you usually vote on for the establishment of?
Yeah, it can be a voice vote. Just
Okay, sounds good. All right, I'll entertain a motion to affirm the 2023 meeting schedule.
I move that we approve the meeting schedule to be the second Thursday of the month at 4 p.m.
Motion and a second. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, let's see. So then we have two sets of executive committee meeting minutes.
And those are generally included for informational purposes for the board. No action needed on those.
Okay, so you don't approve those as
No, the executive committee approves
As
those
already
at their
approved.
meetings and are provided in the board packet for information.
okay, great. Is there anything, since those are two separate agenda items, is there anything in particular you want to call our attention to?
Well, that's a new question.
I have read them. It was actually quite helpful to have those meeting minutes in there.
No, I mean, I would just, refer people to the November 16th minutes meeting the executive committee had with legal counsel discussing some of the potential issues, the circumstances that are created by Rumpke opening a second waste facility in the county.
Okay. Great, thank you. Let's see. So then next we,
Mr. Chair, I would just note that the executive committee did have a meeting in December, correct?
I'm sorry.
We did have a meeting in December. Those minutes are not ready yet.
Yes,
Right,
and that
yeah.
staff did not get those minutes completed in time for the
FYI.
executive committee meeting.
great, thank you. Anything else about the executive committee meeting minutes? All right, we have, looks like we have approval of the Board of Directors meeting minutes for November 10th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Yes, I move approval of the board meeting minutes for November 10th, 2022.
Motion? We
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any comments or amendments or questions about the minutes?
Just to note, this was our last meeting of 2022 since the December meeting was canceled.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we have the controller's report.
Oh, sorry. That would be me. Okay, as far as cash flows at this particular time, as per an email that was sent out earlier today by Tom, we are working on making sure that we have our reconciliation correct for end of year and for the first period of, so for the February meeting, we will bring you end of year and the first period of 2023. We just want to finalize those and make sure that we have everything right. If there are any questions on that, I'm perfectly happy to hear those.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the left? From the right? Okay, thanks. And that one does not get a vote, looks like, but the payroll and claims.
Yes, on page 19 and 20 of the meeting packet are pre-approved payroll and claims in the amount of $572,626.13. They were emailed yesterday and they were processed this week with payroll and claims pre-approved under resolution 2022-02 in the amount of $37,612.06 and claims for board approval of $5,293.69. The total amount of payroll and claims for approval today is $615,531.88. Are there any questions on payroll and claims?
Any questions? Oh,
Just
Mr. McGlass.
If I could just note for the board and anybody in watching that since the board did not meet in December, this is 2 months worth of payroll and claims and does also include our first debt service payment for 2023. So that's why the amount seems
So
fairly high.
thank you for that explanation. See, any questions from the left? Or the right? Yes, it's Piedmont Smith.
Yes, I'm scrolling. I'm getting to my question that I highlighted here. Oh, okay. So I had a couple questions just mainly for my education on what these things are. So they're on the November 16th claims docket. Claim number 4, Calgon Carbon Corp. What is that for? $992.
Sorry.
Which page of the packet? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. It is on page 28.
28. I'm sorry, you said it was Calgon Carbon?
Yes,
That,
$992.
yeah, that is the powder activated carbon that we use in the leachate treatment plant.
Yeah, that's carbon for the leachate treatment process. I buy 400 pounds at a stint. That's with delivery.
How long would that amount last you usually?
That kind of depends upon how much we're running, how often there is. That type of powdered carbon is kind of imagine your fish tank. If you have a fish tank and you got that carbon filter thing that you have in the back, that filters your water through to help clarity and to pull out any kind of metals and different impurities. That's basically what that is, just in a large powdered form that we dump in the big giant tank. And depending upon how many cycles we've run, I mean, there's really not, not an exact science to it, but I'd say that usually lasts, if we don't have to reseed a bunch of times, at least 6 months, maybe more. 400 pounds, because it comes in 50-pound bags. That's 8 bags. If we empty the tank completely and have to clean it, startup is 400 pounds. Is what the recommended thing from Siemens to restart. So I like to have at least that on hand in case something happens or we get something that offsets our process and we have to completely drain and clean that tank. So we at least have that on hand, because that takes, if I were to order that right now, it would be 6 to 8 weeks before I would receive it. So that would be a long time to be without being able to operate. So.
Thanks, Mr. Paulson. And so this $992 was for 50 pounds?
No, 400 pounds. 400 pounds of
3 bags.
carbon with
50-pound
delivery.
bags.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments about payroll and claims?
I actually do have another one.
Okay, please.
Mr. McKim, you'll learn that I usually have some detail-oriented questions. So on the next page, 29 of the packet, November 30 claims, claim number 7, Everside Health LLC. This is for January to March 2022. Can you remind us what was last year the first time we had an employee health clinic? What
No, we've,
Can you explain?
the district had utilized, the county health clinic, in essence, since the county opened it. It's the company that runs the clinic, the county's contract with, has changed names 2 or 3 times over the years. It used to be, prior to this, it was Activate. At some point last year, Everside merged or bought out Activate, and so it's now Everside. But that's the county's health wellness clinic that the district has always utilized.
That's probably why I didn't recognize it, because of the name change. And I think there was one more, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind,
Absolutely.
let me see. Find my highlighting here. Oh, yes, okay. So this one is page 39, December 15th claims. The payment to Effect TV, of course, I know what that is, but I was wondering, and I think I may have mentioned this in previous years. Have we, so we spend money on Effect TV regularly. Have we done any surveys of clients or people who use the Green Business Network, or just bring their trash or recycling to the facilities? Have we done any surveys to see how they heard about our services? So we can kind of gauge whether.
Not in some time. That certainly is something that we could investigate doing at some point this year. Yes.
Yeah, I
No,
think
but
that would be
it's
helpful.
been a number of years since anything like that was done.
It'd be nice to see what the bang for the buck is there. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? All right, we'll entertain a motion for the approval of payroll and claims.
I move approval of payroll and claims as indicated in our packet, plus the most recent ones emailed today.
Motion,
Second.
motion and a second. Okay, let's see. Do you usually do voice votes for all these, or what's your protocol for?
Well, with the hybrid stuff, a lot of times
Right,
we're
you have
doing
to
roll
do
call
that.
votes, and generally on a financial matter, the preference would be a roll call vote.
That's right. That's why I asked. Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Jones,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
McKim,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great. Okay, now we have resolution 2023-01 to amend resolution 2022-13 ordinance for fixing salaries for calendar year 2023.
Apologies from staff. This was hopefully fairly explained fairly well in the memo, but unfortunately, in the last payroll we ran in 2022, we had an admin leave day. We closed for weather on December 23rd, that I believe it was, when it was negative 10 to 15 wind chill. Unfortunately, we had 2 employees who did not get that admin leave. The district policy calls for employees that are scheduled to work on a day there's an administrative decision made to close to be paid for the hours they were scheduled. 2 employees got missed. It was multiple staff members reviewed the payroll before it was processed, and yet they still slipped through the cracks. But once the payroll was done, before the error was caught, our accounting software vendor was asked to close out the 2022 payroll so we could get it set up to run for 2023. And once that was done, there was no way to provide that compensation to have it applied to 2022. One of the employees is an hourly employee, and that can be rectified for that employee within the existing 2023 budget and salary ordinance. But the second employee was fortunately was myself, a salaried employee, and so that could not be done in 2023 without exceeding the maximum fixed in the salary ordinance. So what this resolution does is ask to increase the executive director's pay in the salary ordinance by $254.56, which is the equivalent to 8 hours of pay at the prescribed 2022 hourly rate, so that that compensation can be made.
Great. Thank you. Let's see, any questions from the right? Nope. Yeah, please go ahead. We'll entertain a motion then.
I move approval of resolution 2023-01 to amend resolution 2022-13, which was an ordinance fixing salaries for calendar year 2023 to address this payroll snafu.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, so now we'll see if there are any questions from the right. Or from the left. Okay. Let's see, do you normally do public comment for items like this? You do. Okay. Is there any members of the public who'd like to make comment? Either on Zoom or in the room here, in the Nat U Hill room? Yeah, I'm looking at the attendees and there are no attendees who aren't, yeah. There's the B Square
Yeah.
Bulletin is here, so.
Oh, wow.
No. Okay, let's see. So we'll do a roll call vote then, please.
Githens,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
McKim,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes,
Motion passes.
Right. Okay, we'll move on now to resolution 2023-02, a resolution to replace a resolution to replace at resolution 90-1 to establish a citizens advisory committee for the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District.
Yeah, so as indicated in the memo in the packet, it is on page 59. With in October, maybe November, the October and November board meetings, there was some discussion about the CAC membership and attendance and the ability to establish a quorum. So that got staff looking at the statute that governs CAC district CACs, as well as the resolution 90-1. A couple of issues came to light that the first being that the statute citation in resolution 90-1 is no longer valid. That section of the statute had been repealed and replaced. The second was that resolution 90-1 also established a minimum number of members of 7. And there certainly can very easily envision scenarios beyond the board's control, which could result in a CAC membership below 7. So in consultation with legal counsel and Mr. Winia, the current CAC chair, it was decided it would probably be best to remove that minimum number. So what this resolution does, it updates the statute citation and basically lays out the CAC, as the statute calls for, with regard to where, members must reside within the district, that it reports only to the board. And you can read through all that stuff, in the resolution, but that pretty much follows the statute word for word. I guess one thing that is different in the resolution, the executive director is specifically identified as an ex officio member. That's not a requirement in the statute, but historically, this district has always had its director as an ex officio member. So that's what we have. And again, Mr. Winia and legal counsel, Mr. Baker, have reviewed this and are in agreement with the resolution, and would ask that it be passed.
Great, thank you. And I believe that's on the text of that resolution is on page 61 of the packet. Would someone like to make a motion?
yes, I move approval of resolution 2023-02 to replace resolution 90-1 to establish a citizens advisory committee.
A motion?
A second.
Motion and a second. Okay, any questions from the left? From the right? All right, is
Public comment.
yeah, I was just gonna say, is there any public comment? I don't believe there's anybody on Zoom at this point, but is there anyone in the Nat U Hill room who'd like to make public comment? If so, please step up to the lectern. Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
McKim,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, we now have a couple of items related to appointment or reappointment to the Citizens Advisory Committee for 2023. The first item is it looks like it's not a voting item, but it's a review of the membership status of Nelson Schaefer.
Yes, so an annual housekeeping measure that we do, generally do that in December. However, we did not meet in December, and there was some other issues going on that the board, I think, had elected to wait till January to do this anyway. But as in the resolution that we just passed, as in resolution 90-1, CAC memberships are annual terms expiring on December 31st of each year, even for those members appointed during the year. So they do have to be reappointed. And then a pending issue that we have on page 65 of your packet is a memo regarding the status of the CAC member Nelson Schaefer. The CAC had previously asked the board to look at his attendance record and consider whether or not he was fulfilling his obligation as a member to the CAC. So I get that would be something that again that the board had looked at previously and elected to not make any determination on until this meeting. So before you consider the members listed on page 66, which do include Mr. Schaefer, but on page 66 are those members of the CAC who expressed their interest in being reappointed for 2023 that we're asking the board to consider reappointing.
Okay, thank you. So does anybody have any comments from the right or questions about the specific item at hand? Please.
Yes, I just wanted to remind my fellow board members that we did discuss this in November. And the issue was that according to the CAC's bylaws, I can't quote the bylaws, but there's a attendance requirement and Mr. Schaefer has not met that. And the last meeting of the year for the CIC was after our last board meeting. And so at least for me personally, I was going to wait and see if Mr. Schaefer attended that last CIC meeting. And even though he said he was planning to, he did not attend. And so for me, I do not feel like he is committed to service on the CAC. It's problematic to have somebody on the membership list who does not attend because then we have quorum issues, or the CAC has quorum issues. So in my view, he should be removed from the list of reappointment.
Any comments from the left? Okay, any other? No. Okay, well, I mean, that flows right into the next item, which is that we do have a list of people who are requesting reappointment to the CAC for 2023. That is I believe on page 66 of the packet. There's a list of 7 people. I guess at this point, I would entertain any motions for appointments to the or reappointments to the CAC. Yes.
I move reappointments to, I move that the board reappoint all the members on the list in our packet except for Mr. Schaefer.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Let's see.
I'm sorry, who was the second? Thank you.
All right, well, let's see. So are there any comments from the left? Comments from the right?
Can you pull Mr. Schaefer out of the list of the CAC and just do that separate, or?
Well, I think the motion on the floor is everybody but Mr. Schaefer. So that would be John Arnold, Ryan Conway, Ryan Edwards, Brad Lucas, Paul White Senior, and Joseph Winia. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. Winnie, sorry.
I guess to clarify Mr. Swafford's question, I think that if the motion as made and seconded were to pass, nothing would prohibit another board member from turning around and motioning to appoint any members left off that reappointment.
Correct. I mean, somebody could make another motion appointing
Right.
more members. Absolutely. Does that answer your question then?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So if there are no other comments or questions, do you usually do public comment on appointments of citizens?
Not normally.
Yeah.
Then, given that there are two CAC members in attendance, you might consider doing that.
Okay, yeah, I know that is sometimes controversial. Okay, we will open this up for public comment. If anyone would like to make a public comment, please approach the lectern. Looks like we have somebody. And if so, please state your name for the record.
Hi there, my name is Joseph Winia. I am the Chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I just wanted to express my support for the motion as proposed, and that I think it is a benefit to the CAC to have the appointments as proposed because of the situation described. I know that you were not present for the context, and I could just add, since you weren't provided the attendance records at the November meeting. Mr. Schaefer's attendance for 2021 was only 5 out of 14 meetings, and in 2022, it was 5 out of 11 meetings. And I can quote the bylaws because I did pull them up as well. And there is under an attendance and expectations section, under attendance, that members are expected to regularly attend meetings. An absence from 2 or more consecutive meetings or 50% or more of meetings in a 6-month period is considered excessive. So there's also a clause under that same section for termination and removal. That recommendation for termination of any member may be made as a motion by any other member and must be approved by a 2/3 majority vote of the members present and acting. And there was not a recommendation for removal, but a recommendation for review, and that was passed with a 2/3 majority for reference. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Okay, are there any other members of the public who'd like to make comment? Okay, seeing none, we will do a roll call vote.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
McKim,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Swafford,
No.
Githens.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other motions that any members would like to make with respect to reappointments? Okay. Hearing none, then let's see. I think we have another CAC appointment. This is a new appointment, I believe, for Mr. William Goins.
Yes, you have on page 67 of the packet, a letter of interest from Mr. William Goins to join the CAC. I would point out for the board's information, Mr. Goins is the current operations manager at the proposed Rumpke Resource Recovery Facility currently under construction.
Great. Would anyone like to make a motion appointing Mr. Goins to the CAC?
Yes, I move appointment of William Goins to the CAC.
We have a motion?
Second, and I think it's pronounced Goins.
Goins. Man, I'm probably 0 for 2.
No, I grew up with a number of people with that last name, so that's.
That's funny. Yeah, I work for somebody too, who has that last name and it's pronounced Goins, but yeah, okay, Mr. William Goins. Okay, so let's see. So we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the right? From the left? Okay, we'll open this up for public comment. Would anyone like to make public comment on this appointment? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
McKim,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Swafford.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you very much. Looks like, so that's all the CAC business, or all the CAC appointments. Let's move on to item number 12, which is district rebranding consultant proposals.
Yes, everybody will recall, this is, I guess, an issue that's been talked about off and on for a couple of years now. It is something that was brought up during the development of and adoption of the district's 5-year solid waste management plan update. And have finally gotten around to the point that, we've decided that it would be in our best interest to bring in some outside consultants to help us move this process forward and get it done. So staff reached out to 5 local consulting groups that do work in this area. They're listed in the packet in the memo on page 68. We did receive 3 proposals in response. Alphabetically from Lambert Consulting, 1031 Marketing, and Two Hill Consulting. Those are included in your packet beginning on page 70. And if I can figure out how to do this, we can. Yay. I did put together a little slide. It's not, just kind of lays them out side by side. You can see, I mean, all the submitted proposals met the criteria of the request that was sent out seeking the proposals. And in my, in my opinion, they all did demonstrate an understanding of the district's goals and objectives for the project. So you have a table there that kind of does a side-by-side comparison for some of the key components of the proposals or the project. You can see they all do include a new name, logo, and slogan, assistance with developing an outreach or media campaign, which were the primary objectives put out in the request. You can Two Hill and 1031 also specifically included a website update plan. I would note for the board's information that Lambert Consulting is our current web hoster, and also developed the current iteration of our website. And rebranding was something we knew was coming down the road. And when that website was developed, and he is aware that when they put the current website together, they knew that that rebranding and the potential changes that may bring were coming. They all include guidelines for how to apply and best use the rebranding. All allow for district input. Two Hill Consulting and 1031 Marketing did provide some timelines for completion. 12 weeks for Two Hill, 8 to 10 for 1031. Lambert Consulting did provide an hourly fee for any additional work beyond the scope of the proposal that the district may choose to have done. 1031 did provide for terms of service, and then all 3 of them did provide some work samples that are included in the packet. So, and it would open it up for discussion.
Okay, let's see. So does anyone want to have any questions or comments from the left?
I find it really hard because I'm not an expert in this to do any evaluation of these things, so.
How about from the right? I know I have a question too. Please go ahead.
Well, this is a comment, if that's
Yeah,
appropriate.
absolutely. Yes.
So 1031 Marketing did do a website for the city of Bloomington for its transportation demand management program, gobloomington.org. And I did reach out to the staff person, the transportation demand manager with the city of Bloomington, to ask how he rated, their work and the communications with them. And he spoke very highly of 1031 and said that they were a great team to work with. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. I guess I have just a couple of questions. First of all, on the timeline for completion. So I guess, how do we assess, I mean, if Lambert didn't provide any information at all on timeline for completion, how do we assess that?
Well, like I said, he obviously, in the proposal did not include that. I can say, I guess the rest of the board is probably aware. We have an existing relationship with, obviously, he's our web hoster. He has also, worked with us on, some of our, YouTube videos and infomercials and, getting those, published on YouTube or, updated or, a lot of them were old enough. They needed some tweaking done in order for Comcast to be able to use them. And then he's helped us with that. So, and I can say that, in that experience, he's been prompt and timely with the services that he's provided. I can't sit here and speak that he would get it done in 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 20 weeks. I don't know,
But was there anything in the RFP requiring particular?
No, there was
timelines?
not.
Okay.
And I have that oversight on my part when I sent that out.
And then second, does staff have any recommendations?
Well, I really, I obviously have some familiarity with Lambert Consulting until I got into doing the research and trying to identify, companies, consultants to reach out to about this did not have familiarity with Two Hill Consulting or 1031 Marketing, but looking at the proposals and working with their staff as they develop the proposal, I think that any of the three would do a good job for us. But in reviewing the things, there are. Although the timeline is lacking, there's some detail in the Lambert Consulting proposal that I think the other two are lacking a little bit as far as breaking down exactly what's the new logo and various iterations of that could be used for various applications. And not that the other two wouldn't have the ability to do that or don't intend to do that, but that's in the Lambert Consulting proposal. And again, just, for me personally, there's a comfort level there with that existing relationship. And that would be my recommendation, would be Lambert Consulting.
Thank you. And also, I just want to note that it appears that Commissioner Julie Thomas is at the meeting on Zoom. So welcome, Commissioner Thomas. Okay, thank you for that recommendation. And so what you're looking for from the board tonight is a motion to move forward in working with one of these three proposals. Is that?
Yes, we'd be asking the board to accept one of the proposals and allow or instruct staff to based on the proposal submitted, negotiate an agreement to move the project forward.
Right. Okay, well, let's see. Does anyone want to make any motions right now, or otherwise have other questions that they'd like to ask? Please.
I'm not ready to make a motion, but I guess in reviewing the proposals and the websites of these three companies and the work products, I would prefer either Lambert Consultants or 1031 Marketing. Two Hill is just not as impressive to me, especially their own website is nothing special, and their examples were just not as impressive as the other two. That's all I would say.
Okay.
A point that I had meant to make with regard to Two Hill, just the samples provided in the packet looked a little stretched or skewed to me, and that is not that as a result of staff trying to manipulate the images to get them to fit on the page for the packet. That is not
Okay.
necessarily the quality of the product that was provided.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, other comments. I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, looked at all three. I do agree that the two that Two Hill or that 1031 and Lambert looked like they were quite a bit above the other proposal. And of course, they're also quite a bit more expensive, so.
But I
Any-
think if this is something that's going to be used over 20 years, I don't think that cost differential is
Agreed.
on a per year basis is very great.
Yeah, I don't hear anyone arguing for that choice. It appears that we've kind of by default down selected to 2. But I'm wondering if there's anybody who wants to make any motions recommending recommending one of the 2. Is there additional information, additional deliberation that the board would like? Let me ask, what are the consequences of a delay in making this decision?
I did not see anything in any of the proposals that put a deadline on how long it was good for. So I think that if the board is not comfortable moving forward with what they have, as you asked, I would ask, let staff know what else, what other information, what else you would need from the proposers, and we will certainly seek that out, and we could bring it all back next month.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Piedmont-Smith.
I guess looking at the chart, and thank you, Mr. McGlasson, for preparing that. Looking at that chart, I would be curious to know how much it would cost in addition for Lambert to change our website. It sounds like the 1031 proposal did have that included, whereas the Lambert proposal did not. Is that right?
Well, the 1031 Consulting and Two Hill Consulting included a website update plan, but the physical work to update the website, since they're not hosting it, we would have to take that plan, and as it currently sits, go to Lambert Consulting, who hosts the website, and ask them to physically change the website.
Oh, so just a plan.
So we would be paying Lambert Consulting anyway to actually implement the plan on the website regardless.
Yeah, unless the outcome of all this led to us changing hosting services. But
Okay, but you're not requesting that. It sounds like they're.
But we may end up changing the entire name, which would then change the URL probably. So it might.
yeah. I mean, I would anticipate that the URL will change as a result of this.
Okay. But he could still host it with a new URL.
Yes.
Well, yeah, certainly the existing host could
Yeah.
make the URL change.
All right, so I guess what I'd like to hear either is as a motion or some kind of request for additional information that we need before proceeding with the decision.
As Commissioner Thomas has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Thomas.
Hey, if we're changing URLs anyway, I think one of the things that we've struggled with in the past is having a website that staff can make changes to quickly and easily. And that would be a real goal. So I don't know if we want to go back to at least 2 of these companies and get a sense of their capabilities of producing a website that staff can update, and then providing some sort of a quote on that would be useful. I just feel like if we're going to do this, we should do this, right? But I could be alone in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good comments. Anybody else have anything that they want to add on that? Yes, Commissioner
If we
Gibbons.
do go back and ask that, I'd also like to get a timeline from Lambert.
I'm sorry.
If we do go back and ask about this kind of ease of use for the website, I'd also like to ask Lambert about a timeline for
Sure.
doing this work.
I have a follow-up question for Mr. McGlasson. So the current website, can staff not make updates to it? I mean, what's the current status? Is there a content management system in place that staff use now?
It's minimal, and it's less than the previous iteration had. We have full control over the calendar, and that's about it.
Oh. Hmm.
Yeah, everything else, Mr. Winia probably knows more about the terminology than I do. I don't know if it's coded in or if it's, the platform that it's built on, but we do not have the ability or the access to make changes to the bulky item page per se or whatever.
Right.
Well, then I certainly second Commissioner Thomas's comment.
Okay. So,
I would know, not a member of the public at this point, but I believe Ms. Munson, who has been involved in this process, does have a comment if the board wishes to hear it.
well, then why don't we go ahead and see if there are any, well, we don't actually have a motion on here, but we can still, is everybody okay with allowing public comment right now that's relevant to this issue? Okay, well, if anyone would like to make public comment on the issue of choosing a consultant for rebranding, please approach the lectern. Actually, I see Ms. Munson's hand up on Zoom as well. So.
I was watching on Zoom so I could see the table. Mr. McGlasson, Cheryl Munson here. Would you please put that table up on the screen?
I gotta pull it back up. I apologize.
I was very happy to hear the discussion among the board members. And that you are not ready to jump in and pick one, because when I looked at this carefully and I looked at the information in the packet, I was concerned that there really was not a level playing field, particularly for the ones that I wanted to consider most, which would be Lambert and 1031. And it did have to do with the website. And it had to do with fee for additional work. And I thought it'd be valuable to ask 1031 to provide that information on that fee and to be more specific with both businesses about how the website might be changing. And then I think you'll have a better comparison.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm hearing that we would like to hear, to just see if this accurately reflects what we're hearing, that we would like to down select to Lambert and 1031 and would like to obtain some additional information from both of them on any fees for additional, oh, you took away that chart. That was. Can you put that back? I'm sorry. That was actually quite helpful.
I'm sorry.
This is what I'm.
I can't have my.
Yeah, okay, no, I think we pretty much have it here that
Sharing my
everybody
screen
is
and
interested.
watching Zoom at the same time don't work.
that we're interested in from them ways to proposal on how to improve the manageability, essentially the content management system for the website to allow staff to make more changes more easily. That we would like in more definition on the timeline from both, kind of in the same format from both consultants, and also the fees for additional work for both consultants. Is that pretty accurate? Okay,
Okay.
so I don't think you need a motion for that, right? This is just
No.
direction for staff, and then you can
Direction to
bring back.
staff, and we will pursue that and bring whatever information we get back to the board in February.
Fantastic.
And a timeline from Lambert too.
Yeah, that was one of
Yeah.
them. Yeah, timeline, content
Yeah.
management system,
Yeah.
and fees for additional work.
Mhm.
Great. All right, thank you very much. So I think we'll move on to a discussion of MOU for cost share with CBU for resource recovery facility proposal.
Sorry, I got a lot of pages to scroll through now.
That's a big packet.
Okay, yeah, so this, an issue, a question, concern, raised at the executive committee meeting, and I think Mr. McKim might provided you the relevant information. If the rest of the members will recall, in November, I, as a part of my department update, provided a summary of a meeting I attended, along with Mr. Conway and Mr. Winia from the CAC, with the CBU and their consultant, updating on the project. And one of the things that came out, or two things came out of that meeting that had been brought up at the executive committee meeting. The first being that the consultant was now focusing in on the Dillman Road facility for siting the anaerobic digester if the project were to move forward. And the second being that the radius, did I just lose my mic?
No, we've got it a little bit.
The radius for source material had expanded from 50 miles to 75 miles. And so the question was raised if if this has gone beyond the scope of what the district had agreed to help fund, and that should be brought to the board for discussion. So.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I guess Mr. Baker, is Mr. Baker here? I didn't know if he had any comments from a legal perspective about the scope.
And yes, Mr. Baker is on Zoom.
I am here. I don't have any comments yet. It is fairly clear, though, that they need to abide by the scope of services, and adjustments need to be approved before the adjustment's made. So, but beyond that, I don't have any other comments at this point.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's see. So I guess let's hear comments from the left about this.
Can I
Oh,
just,
okay.
may I ask, I can't tell, is there somebody from CBU on this call who wants to say anything, or I thought we had invited Vic Kelson.
They were advised that this was on the agenda and offered the opportunity to attend, but I did speak with Vic Kelson last week about this, and he thought that unless he was specifically requested to be here, he just thought that his presence might get in the way of the board freely discussing this issue amongst themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Well, I was the one that raised the issue, and so I'm not as gifted as my colleagues here, so I'd like to read something that I've prepared. I was very disappointed in the lack of reporting from Energy Power Partners about the study they're conducting regarding the feasibility of installing an anaerobic digester in Monroe County. When the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District was asked to partner with the City of Bloomington Utilities to split the $129,220 cost of such a study, we were told, and this isn't necessarily all in the MOU, but we were told that, first of all, the principals, which should have included at least the executive committee of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District, we were told that we would receive monthly updates on the progress of the study. Second, initially the study was to look at placing the anaerobic digester at the Blucher Pool wastewater treatment plant. Third, the feedstock to be considered was listed as fats, oils, and grease, or FOG, I've learned, commercial source separated organic waste streams, industrial/food and beverage organic residual waste streams, other municipal wastewater treatment biosolids, and residential organics within the city of Bloomington. Fourth, we were told the consultants would look at the potential feedstock market within a 50-mile radius. The 50-mile radius was specifically included in the information included on page 31 of our packet of March 10th, 2022. And also, I'd like to point out that at least one member of our board voted to fund the initial study because the group was informed about the possibility of producing relatively high-grade biosolids, which might be approved for land application. Now, per the report, which our Director Tom McGlasson shared with the board on November 4th, this is page 1, bullet 3, Energy Power Partners, or EPP, met with the CBU staff, himself, and 2 members of the Solid Waste District Citizens Advisory Committee on Wednesday, October the 26th, 2022, to provide a study update. No member of the executive committee or any other member of our board attended, and no effort was made to schedule a time to meet with them. This is not the monthly update I felt we were promised and which should have been delivered. The Blucher Pool site seems to have been dismissed easily by the consultants or quickly by the consultants, with the focus shifting to the Dillman Road wastewater treatment plant. This feels to me, and this is just me speaking personally, like a bait and switch, especially since we had been told there wasn't room at the Dillman Road site to install an anaerobic digester. The radius for the potential feedstock market was increased by EPP without approval from the Solid Waste Board, and they expanded the feedstock to be considered from the ones I previously listed to the organic waste from an abattoir. Increasing the radius from 50 to 75 miles increases the hauling cost and has the potential to increase pollution due to additional heavy trucks on the road. This does not seem to be environmentally friendly, something that I feel that we all are striving to do. At the October 26, 2022 meeting, attendees were told only Class B biosolids would be produced. I've come to learn that this type of raw solid waste from the digester is generally only used by large farming operations of the size that do not exist in Monroe County, and that they must either be drilled or sliced into the soil. I've learned that there may be enough raw solid waste produced to cover 600 acres of land each year, and that a facility must exist to store this solid waste during the times of the year when farmers cannot apply it to their land. And also that IDEM must approve such a use. And that is if sufficient feedstock can be obtained from beyond the original 50-mile radius, something that doesn't seem to be guaranteed, especially if hauling costs go up. Of course, if the raw solid waste has to be shipped outside of Monroe County, that also decreases its value to potential purchasers. If the Solid Waste District Executive Board had been informed of these changes to the contract and the initial results with regard to sourcing the feedstock back in October, we might have asked that EPP stop their study and bill us for their work up to that time. But there are also other problems. I've learned that the anaerobic digester, which was built and operated in Madison, Wisconsin, has been shut down. Why? Contamination and repeated shutdowns that resulted from those contaminations. As one looks at food waste as a possible feedstock, please keep in mind that if you hope to source that from grocery stores, it must first be removed from the extensive packaging that we see and used in today's stores. That requires a separate facility, and I am told that the work can be dangerous to do that separation. It is also difficult to source uncontaminated feedstock from homes and restaurants due to ongoing contamination. Contaminants impact any methane gas which might be produced by this kind of anaerobic digester, and it often produces too much carbon dioxide and inert gases that would need to be removed before being sold to a utility company or burned on site. Contaminants also impact the raw solid waste that would be produced. One of the feedstocks that would go into such a digester is the wastewater from City of Bloomington Utilities' 2 wastewater treatment plants. And it is my understanding that absolutely no testing is done at either site on the wastewater for heavy metals. Such heavy metals can be toxic, meaning the raw solid waste would be hauled to a landfill, not used in farming. In my opinion, EPP should have ended its study months ago and not charged us for the full study. As such, I would like for this board to consider whether EPP's decision to expand the scope of the study without the authorization and consent of this board, whether or not that constitutes a breach of contract. If you feel it does, I ask that we consider not paying the $64,600 we originally agreed to pay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for those comments. Would you be willing to distribute those in to the board in writing?
Yes.
Thank you. Because I do think, I mean, I'm assuming that we don't have the capability to respond to each of those right now. There's some additional information that would need to be gathered either from CBU or from EPP. But I'm wondering if anybody else has any other comments. I guess I do have one question, and that's, I'm not sure what is, how can I put this? why does the board, why would the district care about Blucher Pool versus Dillman Road? I would think that we'd want whatever is the best product. And my understanding was that the consultant, after looking at the numbers, thought it made more sense that the economics would be better, that they'd have a better product for Dillman Road after actually looking at the numbers. But I don't know why do we care which, maybe I should address that to Commissioner Givens, but why do we care which?
If I had heard that a month into it, I would be fine with it probably, but it's the fact that there was no reporting on any of this and they made these decisions about what to do without consulting us
So it was the lack of monthly reporting that's really the underlying issue.
for that only. I mean, this expansion to a larger radius, the expansion to what I consider other feedstocks for this. I'm just not happy with this.
Looks like Commissioner Thomas has a comment to make.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to thank Commissioner Githens for putting that information together and raising this issue. I find this incredibly troubling, and I don't see how this does anything to benefit the community. And it certainly doesn't seem to fit at all with meeting any of the environmental needs of our community at all, especially with the hauling. And, you know, imagining those large farmlands that would be needed and how far away those are, that adds additional hauling. And as she mentioned, storage, this just seems just the absolutely wrong thing for us to be investing in. So I do hope that that there is some way to deal with this consultant. And I don't know if Mr. Baker is still on and if he would offer any insight, or if Mr. McGlasson knows what our next steps would be. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know, Mr. Baker, if you had anything else you wanted to add.
Mr. Baker, he had a 5 o'clock deadline.
Oh, he had to leave. Okay. Thank you. Well, I mean, the way I see it is there are some legitimate issues that were raised, and they, you know, I guess I would like to hear what the answers are as well. I obviously the emissions from from trucking the material in from further away certainly has to play into the carbon neutrality of the entire process. And I don't know if Ms. Piedmont Smith has.
Well, I find these issues very interesting, and I do want to investigate answers and match what Commissioner Givens has said to what's written in the contract. I do want to do that, but I also want to ask everyone to keep in mind that this was a feasibility study. And so maybe what we had envisioned, what we had hoped for is just simply not feasible. And they were, trying to see if through various adjustments, it could be made feasible. Now, I entirely agree that there should have been more feedback and reporting along the way. But to say that this was totally not worthwhile, I would disagree with that. I mean, even if we find the answer is that this is not feasible, that was kind of the point of the study. So let's keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, and I certainly support. I mean, if part of the analysis, and I have looked through the MOU, and I did not see anywhere where it was predicated on a particular location, whether it was predicated on Dillman Road versus Blucher Pool. So if somebody can point that out to me, that would be great. But I couldn't find it in either the proposal or the MOU.
It was said in meetings.
It was
so
said.
it should be in some of our minutes. And it was my understanding, maybe I'm incorrect, but I think that there had been a previous investigation about whether or not a biodigester would be appropriate at Dillman Road, and that was turned down. So part of the reason that we all agreed, I thought, to the Blucher Pool, looking at that, was because Dillman Road had already been turned down. Why go back and do the same work?
Okay. I think this was a much more. My understanding, I don't have that proposal in front of me either. I don't know if Ms. Piedmont Smith remembers the details of that proposal. So I guess I don't even want to try to do that analysis until we have it in front of us. But I do think that the questions that Commissioner Githens raised deserve answers and hopefully can be answered. And it does sound like communication with the consultant and including the board or the executive committee, at least in the reporting, has been lacking.
And I would just add that, you know, and I'm not gonna put it all on the consultant or CBU, and I apologize. It's possible that, you know, I was remiss in extending invitations. You know, when I was, you know, offered to meet with the consultants or with CBU, but I will note that those were not monthly invitations by any means. We were not provided, I was not, you know, provided either you know, on Zoom, in a report, or in a personal meeting, monthly updates on any of that. And I do acknowledge that there's a number of legitimate questions and issues raised. And I think that, and unfortunately, Mr. Baker had a deadline, another commitment he had to get on. And I think that I guess my recommendation would be to get a copy of those issues to Mr. Baker, and first let him compare those with what he thinks our obligations are under the MOU that we've signed based on the proposal that was provided as a part of that. And I'm sure there's a number of things such as, you know, transportation and the resulting carbon emission. None of that's going to be addressed in the proposal or the MOU, but certainly legitimate concerns that the solid waste district should have if the you know, if it was determined to be a feasible project and CBU elected to try to move forward.
And you know, I think to echo Ms. Piedmont Smith's comment, you know, this is a feasibility study, and so some of the concerns that Commissioner Githens raised should be taken into account in determining whether this is feasible. I mean, having to truck in the feedstock from further away certainly has a cost to it, and that needs to be weighed against the potential benefits of the project. But that's the outcome of the analysis, or that's an outcome of the analysis, not you know, the analysis isn't predicated on those costs not existing.
But it's my understanding that they couldn't find a single feed source within the 50-mile radius. And so they kept going.
That's why they expanded.
Yeah. And so that's why I think that they should have come back to us before they expanded.
Commissioner Thomas.
Commissioner Thomas answered.
Yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Yeah, that was exactly the point I was going to underline, is what Commissioner Githens just said, is that's my concern, is that they went beyond the scope of the contract without consulting with us. And that's why I'm pointing out why this, yes, I understand it's a feasibility study, but at some point, you know, what you're studying, we know isn't going to be feasible. So if we had that information in advance, we could have acted appropriately at that time. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, I think I agree with Mr. McGlasson's recommendation that he work with Mr. Baker to determine, you know, to compare the obligations of that are outlined in the MOU and the proposal versus what was delivered, and let the board know if there are concerns on that regard. And then on, you know, kind of on a separate track, Penny's Commissioner Githens' substantive concerns. You know, I think we ought to have some analysis done on that. Maybe see if we can get some additional information from the consultant or from CBU to answer those questions. Does that work as a way of moving forward?
It's my understanding that by the end of January or early February, we should have a full report from EPP as well. But we haven't even seen a copy of this interim report.
Okay. Is there an interim report that exists that we haven't received?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so it's just been conversations between
Well, they had a
somebody
meeting.
who isn't.
They had a meeting. It was verbally delivered, at least. I don't know
Yeah,
beyond that.
I've
'Cause it
not, yeah, I've
wasn't there.
not been provided any draft or interim report, just verbal from that meeting. So.
Okay. Please.
And I just want to confirm, we have not paid anything on this
Correct.
contract, correct?
Yes, we have not been invoiced for anything from CBU or EPP.
Okay. Thank you.
And we don't pay EPP directly, do we? Do we,
No.
do we reimburse, we reimburse CBU? CBU pays.
I would want to review the MOU before actually responding to that. I'm not.
That's, I
forget-
seem to remember.
I
having
forget
it.
how that's written.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Well, I think we have a path forward to get some answers to these questions and also to outline our mutual legal responsibilities according to the MOU. So if we don't have anything else on that item, we can move on to the CAC report.
Joseph Winnie again here from the Citizens Advisory Committee. There will actually be two reports included because there was no December meeting held. So the first will be the November and December monthly activity report from the CAC. It was actually during that meeting that CAC also discussed the results of the biodigester meeting that member Conway and I also attended. We also had a conversation about the implementation and evaluation guidance subcommittee within the CAC, who put together a 5-year management plan reporting document and provided that to Mr. McGlasson to review with staff. We did have a brief discussion about potential landfill monetization, and then also talked about another county, Porter County Citizens Advisory Committee's efforts to ban the ban with respect to the single-use materials ban that preempted the effort to control, or I guess, reduce the use of those items. So potentially to collaborate on an effort to work against that state policy. So then we actually also didn't have a December meeting for the CAC, so there's not much to report there, except that we had just distributed the request for desire for reappointment. And there were actually 2 members who opted to not be reappointed, Lily Kleinlein and Andrew Manley. And yes, we will be holding our first meeting of the year this coming Thursday. So that is all I have to report.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify a couple of things just for the benefit of the public. Landfill monetization. Could you explain what that means?
Yes, so within the district's 5-year management plan, there was an element under the final disposal facilities section where we proposed potential opportunities to make use of the closed landfill space for other activities that could be of value to the district and could produce a monetary benefit. So they were just very preliminary discussions about what types of activities that could entail. Some things that were discussed were like an informational tour with signing and education about the landfilling process in that particular site, or just a general multi-use path for recreational purposes and the likes.
Thank you. And then the other thing, as far as a ban, the ban on a ban, we're talking about plastic bag ban, right?
So that's what prompted the preemptive policy, but the state, I guess the state code as written is to preempt the control of any type of single-use material. So it goes as broadly as possible. So in the effort of doing whatever is possible through regulation against single-use items, it's currently impossible with the presence of that preemptive policy. So the interest would be to try to develop a group to help work against that policy and to find alternative options to permit greater control and have that that opportunity to use legislation as a means to work against the uncontrolled production and disposal of single-use items.
Mhm. Okay, thank you so much.
Indeed, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much, and thank you for your continued service. at
Absolutely.
CAC. All right, I believe we're up to department reports.
And as with the CAC, there would be 2 reports from each department since the December meeting was canceled. I guess a couple of things out of the reports to highlight. I did have an opportunity at the beginning of December to tour the construction progress at Rumpke's new facility. And things were looking pretty good. They had, their office / maintenance building was erected, still needed, doors on it, needed interior, finishing done, but that building was up. When I was out there, they were in the process of pouring walls for the dumping bays. They're going to have 4 dedicated dumping areas, one specific to glass, one for commingled recycled, one for source separated recycling, and one for trash. So it's it looks really good. All things considered, it's in progress, but they did have the bulk of the paving done for drive and parking. Did have you know, areas dedicated for green space, and it's I am interested, excited to see the final product. I think it's going to be a nice facility for the community. So, and then other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions on the reports in the packet, but did want to take an opportunity. Obviously, with the first of the year, we have a new legislative session going on, bills being filed. Tomorrow is the deadline for representatives and senators to file bills. At this point, I've not been made aware of any bills that deal directly with or target districts specifically. But there are a handful of bills that are of interest to us or will potentially impact districts along with a number of other entities. The first one, there's a Senate Bill 33, which is calling for the IDEM and the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission to do a study on solar panel decommissioning and disposal. I'm certainly interested to see where that one goes and if that study were to be undertaken. Another is House Bill 1017, which establishes prescription drug donation repositories throughout the state. Since you know, medication disposal is something that the districts throughout the state are concerned with. That's another one we're interested in. And then another one, House Bill 1075. It has to do with nonprofit organizations. This one is of interest to us because the solid waste districts have an association at the state level that acts as a lobbyist for us and helps us put on our annual conference. What this bill does is expands the definition of a public benefit corporation fairly broadly, and it does establish circumstances and set up a procedure that would allow the Attorney General to petition a court to dissolve any nonprofit organization. It's a bill that I'm sure there's a number of organizations throughout the state that are going to be watching closely.
That was planned here?
Yeah. And then a couple of others, House Bill 1078 has to do with the governance of public-private agreements. We have a couple of those. I don't think that any that we have would you know, fall within the specifications of you know, they're not big enough or don't involve enough money that this bill would touch, but interested to see what happens with that, and if you know, could be some additional restraints on future public-private partnerships or agreements we might decide to pursue. And then the last one, there's House Bill 1167 that has to do with live streaming and archiving recordings of public meetings, which it kind of makes sense that that bill came up with everything that's happened out of the pandemic and Zoom meetings and hybrid meetings. And but the one thing I caught out of it, it would require public meetings to be broadcast live, which is something most Monroe County public meetings already do through CATS and stuff, but the archiving side of that is something that may have an impact on us because not all of our meetings make it on CATS. Our executive committee meetings are not always on CATS, and so that's at this point the last bill that I'm paying attention to. But again, tomorrow is the deadline, and there may be additional legislation filed that we need to pay attention to.
So that list of bills that you've called our attention to, it doesn't look like that's in any of the staff reports, is it?
No, but that's that memo in the packet went out on Friday, and this was all stuff that we started started really looking at and putting the list together this week. That's something that we do in conjunction with our association, with other district directors, that we all kind of pay attention to what gets filed and make everybody aware of things we think that districts throughout the state should be watching.
Thank you. All right, other staff reports.
Yeah, I don't have anything unless there's any questions, but we have Joey Long and Lee Polson on Zoom that have reports prepared for you.
Any questions? Any other questions? Okay, well, then I guess we've come to public comment.
Well, we have our operations.
Oh, you do have,
director,
more.
yeah,
Okay,
Joey
I'm sorry.
Long,
I thought you
and,
said there weren't
yeah.
any more staff reports. Sorry. Okay, Mr. Long.
Okay, I'll start with our recycling and reuse programs. Just to let everybody know, we have been doing our Christmas tree recycling. That's the all natural Christmas trees. To let the public know, it does end Saturday, the 14th will be our last day accepting them at all 4 sites in our main recycling center. We've taken in a lot of Christmas trees already, and it's been a good reuse thing. I'll move on to the hazardous materials. Our staff has completed their annual HAZWOPER training that they have to do every year. We've also learned some new shipping requirements, packaging for the hazardous waste stuff that we do take in. So we're currently going back and repackaging stuff that we have not shipped out yet, just because we haven't had enough of it yet to meet the new requirements, but we will be ahead for 2023 because we did get this training done at the end of 2022. And at our rural recycling centers, they're all operating as normal. We did do some work at our Ellettsville office location. The floor needed to be fixed. It was starting to rot out some, so we had it all replaced. The concrete steps, if you've been there, has been deteriorating over time because of the weather. So we did have a composite deck built. It's wood and composite. And it's very nice, and it's safer for the public to go up and knock on the door or seek assistance. And that's what I have. If you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Great. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Long? Ms. Piedmont Smith?
Yes, I was just wondering what you do with the Christmas trees.
The Christmas trees go to Good Earth composting, so they get composted.
Thank you. I figured.
Yeah, and we have donated some to IU. They have they're using them to put into ponds and lakes for catfish. So everything's being reused.
Wow, ponds for catfish. That's good.
Yes, they sink them down in there, and I guess the catfish likes getting underneath them and stuff. So, if we can help other stuff out where stuff's being reused and not just throw it away, that's the best thing.
Great,
Right.
thank you.
Right, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, are there any other department updates? Mr. Paulson?
Lee Paulson, landfill director. Couple things to just bring to your guys' attention. It's been a couple months. Our November, we did our groundwater stuff at the landfill. Everything went off just fine. All the samples are been to the lab and back, and currently we're just all the information, all the data is with the statistician with AECom, and I'm just waiting for their report so that I can submit my stuff for the state. Also, the blue building out at the landfill has been completely demolished, or not demolished, but removed, and Phoenix Demolition has taken care of all that. I have some pictures that I forwarded on to Tom, the deconstruction of the building, and some comments of where the materials went. So not just to be recycled, but they were actually reused. And then the other thing is that we hired for the new position for the compliance assistant help. We hired Danny Persifield, interviewed him the last part of December, and he was hired on. He's was already working at the district, but he's switching over from part of the recycle center to us, and he started on Tuesday, January 2nd. So it's been a big help already, as we've noticed, and we've been able to get out and do a pretty good roadside cleanup with 3 of us and a couple trucks, and making sure that we're a lot safer, and doing an effective job without feeling like we're having to run around like crazy people all the time. So it's been a welcome addition so far, and we're looking forward to seeing the things that we can get accomplished with him. So the rest of the stuff's in the report. If you guys have any questions, just let me know and I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions?
No, I just hope that the addition of this new person also helps you with all the complaints. I'm not using the right term. Can you help me? The
Compliance cases,
what?
compliance
Issues. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's already been out. He's already, we've already sat down and had a group meeting with Mary Beth, him and myself, and coming up with a plan. And as soon as we get offices and computers and all that kind of stuff ordered and here, things are already working very well. So it's I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Paulson? All right. Thank you very much. And I guess is that all the departmental updates? Okay. Thank you. So we do move on to public comment. Let's start for items not on the agenda. Let's start with the Nat U Hill room first. If there's anyone here who'd like to make public comment, please approach the lectern. Okay, seeing no one. If you are on Zoom and would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, then we will move on to comments from directors, and we'll start from my left. Any comments from directors?
I just want to thank you for allowing me to make that very extended statement today. I appreciate the time and the attention of the board.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing it and reading it in more detail. Any other comments?
Yes, I just wanted to remind everybody about the conversations we had last late summer and fall about possibly supporting a residential composting pilot program for multi-residential apartment buildings. And I know that Earth Keepers is eager to help us or to move forward with this. And I have been talking with city staff as well, who are interested in helping with funding for this project. So hopefully at the next executive committee meeting, this can be an item on the agenda.
I look forward to hearing more about that. Sounds very interesting. Let's see, is Commissioner Thomas still here? I don't know if she wanted to make a comment.
She's no longer on Zoom.
Okay, great. Well, then I just want to thank everybody for coming out today, and thank my colleagues here for bearing with me while I relearn the procedures the Solid Waste District works with. But I think with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.